The spacecraft was supposed to arrive at Jupiter with a powerful voice. Tucked against its body was a large, high-gain antenna, a golden umbrella designed to unfold in deep space. Once opened, it would become the mission's connection to Earth. Every image, every measurement, every discovery would pass through that antenna before crossing the vast darkness back home. At launch, there was little reason to doubt it. The difficult part seemed to be ahead. Jupiter waited hundreds of millions of miles away. The spacecraft had years of travel before reaching the giant planet. The antenna was simply part of the plan, a tool already accounted for, a capability so essential that few people imagined the mission without it. Then the deployment sequence began. Far from Earth, commands traveled outward through space. Motors activated. Sections of the antenna started moving. And then they stopped. The umbrella opened only part way. Several ribs refused to extend. The structure remained frozen between two states, not folded, not deployed, not destroyed, just stuck. For a moment, the problem seemed temporary. Mechanical systems sometimes bind. Spacecraft carry recovery procedures for exactly this reason. Engineers had options. Additional commands could be sent. Components could be cycled. Vibrations could sometimes free mechanisms that resisted their first movement. The antenna had not failed completely. It had only stopped. That difference mattered.
As Galileo rotated,
Because if it was merely stuck, then eventually it could be unstuck. The spacecraft continued its journey while engineers searched for a solution. From Earth, they sent command after command. The antenna remained unchanged. The golden umbrella still hung half open against the spacecraft's body. Months passed. The distance between Earth and the spacecraft widened. The recovery attempts continued. Nothing visible improved.
Despite the failure of
The
its
original
high-gain
explanation
antenna,
still seemed
the Galileo
reasonable.
probe continued
Mechanical
its
systems could be
solitary
stubborn.
journey, drawing ever
A
closer
successful
to the gas
deployment
giant.
might happen tomorrow, or next month, or after the next carefully designed procedure. But reality kept producing the same image. A spacecraft moving steadily toward Jupiter, an antenna refusing to move with it. Every new attempt carried an unspoken expectation. Surely this one would work. And every failure removed another possibility. The mission's options were not expanding. They were shrinking. By the time engineers had exhausted numerous recovery strategies, a more uncomfortable question began to emerge. What if the antenna never opened? The spacecraft itself offered a contradiction. Everything else seemed alive. Its systems functioned. Its instruments remained healthy. Its journey continued. The mission was not collapsing. Only one capability had disappeared. The one capability everything depended on. Communication. A spacecraft can collect extraordinary science. But if that science cannot reach Earth, its value becomes trapped inside the machine. The antenna had been designed to carry enormous amounts of information across interplanetary distances. Without it, the mission faced a brutal limitation. A much smaller backup antenna. The low-gain antenna was never intended to carry the burden of the entire mission. It existed for routine communication, status reports, basic contact. Using it as the primary pathway home was like replacing a highway with a narrow footpath. Yet the spacecraft kept traveling toward Jupiter. And Jupiter was not slowing down. Every day brought the destination closer. Every day left the antenna exactly where it was. Half open, half silent. At some point, the recovery effort changed character. The goal was no longer freeing the antenna tomorrow. The goal became surviving without it. The mission began learning a new language. Engineers turned toward software, toward compression, toward creative ways of squeezing information through a communication channel never designed for such demands. The challenge was almost absurd. The spacecraft had been built to send an encyclopedia. Now it had to communicate through something closer to a walkie-talkie. Every bit mattered. Every transmission mattered. Information that once could have flowed comfortably now had to be compressed, prioritized, and carefully managed. The rescue was no longer mechanical. It was intellectual. A hardware failure was being confronted with adaptation.
Galileo reached
Years
Jupiter.
earlier, success
Its
had looked
mission
simple.
parameters forever altered by the frozen
Deploy the
high-gain
antenna. Reach Jupiter. Send home discoveries. Now success looked completely different. Keep the spacecraft alive. Teach it to communicate differently. Protect as much science as possible. And do all of it before arrival. The giant planet continued growing larger ahead. Bands of clouds circled its atmosphere. Its moons waited beyond it. The encounter the mission had been built for was approaching, whether the antenna worked or not. The obvious solution never arrived. The umbrella never opened. The belief that had sustained years of recovery attempts finally collapsed. There would be no dramatic mechanical victory. No triumphant deployment sequence. No moment when the spacecraft suddenly regained its intended voice. The mission would reach Jupiter crippled. And yet it would still reach Jupiter. That distinction became everything. Because when arrival finally came, the spacecraft did not fall silent. Slowly, carefully, information began making its way home. Images crossed the gulf. Measurements crossed the gulf. Scientific discoveries crossed the gulf. Not through the system that had been designed for them. Through the backup. Through the workaround. Through years of adaptation. The missing signal never returned. But enough signal survived. And that changed the meaning of the entire story. At the beginning, the antenna appeared to be the mission's most important asset. The golden umbrella seemed inseparable from success itself. By the end, it remained frozen exactly where it had failed years earlier. The hardware never recovered. The mission did. The spacecraft that arrived at Jupiter was not the spacecraft engineers originally expected to have. Its voice had been reduced to a whisper. Its communication path had been reinvented. Its options had steadily disappeared. Yet discovery continued. Images arrived. Science arrived. The exploration survived. In the end, the most remarkable sight was not Jupiter. It was that half-opened antenna, still frozen, still incomplete, still hanging between success and failure. A reminder that the mission's greatest achievement was not repairing the Explorer. It was teaching the Explorer how to continue without repair.